Manchester United are fully involved in getting Victor Gyokeres, and our top midfield target is revealed. Real Madrid are preparing a January move for Diogo Dalot. Onana is getting some well-deserved praise as we're linked with a new goalkeeper. Amad contract update and a rundown of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. It will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video and let's jump straight into it. So you bought your news yesterday. If you've watched the video, if you haven't, there's been more reports regarding Amad Diallo's contract situation. Fabrizio Romano has come out saying that United are planning to make a new contract for Amad happen before activating the club's clause to extend the current deal in 2026. So with this, Amad's contract situation, he's out of contract technically in the summer. United have a +1 option regarding it. So it was always believed while we were negotiating, United could just trigger the +1 option and then renegotiate with his contract. However, according to Romano, what he's effectively saying is United are confident they're going to get a new contract done for him before they even need to trigger the contract extension, which means basically this month, and especially if he means saying that we're going to do the new deal very soon. So, you know, keep an eye out on that. Looks like Amad Diallo contract situation is is hopefully drawing to a close. We can get him on that new contract. It was interesting actually because Romano was saying that one of the reasons for the delay was something to do with the previous coaches, which can only be Ten Hag, and the fact that he wasn't getting game time and he wasn't really quite fancy, which we've kind of discussed anyway. And I know some of you have been mentioning that in the comments in previous videos, which, you know, basically, like if Ten Hag was still here, would Diallo be getting a new contract? That's absolutely insane, isn't it? That we could potentially, we would have done the +1 still, but then, not negotiated a new contract for Amad Diallo. He's been outstanding so far this season. In my opinion, one of our best players of the season so far. He's up there. I think him, Mazraoui, and Onana would be my 3 picks so far. The start of the season for player of the season, because effectively Ten Hag, because Romano didn't say Ten Hag himself. He said previous coaches, but Ruud van Nistelrooy played him as soon as he became interim manager, put him straight back in the team, and we got all the new coaches in the summer, so it could only be Ten Hag. That's absolutely insane. Let me know what you think, though, about that in the comments. Now, there's been an interesting update regarding Victor Gyokeres. So this came from Florian Plettenberg. Now, Florian Plettenberg's a really credible source. Works for Sky Germany and everything, but more so for German and Bayern Munich news. He's not the most credible outside of that kind of genre or outside of that area. So personally, while he is a credible source, I would like to see a bit more credibility before getting too excited about the story. But however, he had the following to say: Manchester United have now made initial concrete talks regarding Victor Gyokeres and a potential move in the summer. They are now fully involved. However, this will require sales first. Manchester City have also intensified their efforts in recent days. Hugo Larsson is currently pushing hard in the pursuit of Gyokeres. So Florian Plettenberg dropping a bit of a, and he's probably, like I said, the most, he is a credible source, so I don't want to dismiss it entirely. Effectively saying that United have made initial concrete talks regarding Gyokeres and a potential move in the summer. Now, that's key. This is a summer deal, because I don't think, one, we've got a gentleman's agreement with Sporting to not buy their players, but also funding-wise, and I don't think Gyokeres wants to leave necessarily halfway through the season. But that Manchester City are also in the race now as well. Now, whether that's a story put out there to, force United's hand, it's a bit of a weird one, because with Gyokeres, I was thinking about this after reading the report, and I was like, well, sometimes we get transfer news, right? And it might be the club that are putting their player out there, or an agent putting their player out there to generate interest and generate views. Like, there'll be multiple names, and we one later on, actually, I'm going to cover in this video, who could fall under that category. But Sporting have got no reason to do that with Gyokeres. Everybody knows who Gyokeres is. He's one of the best strikers in Europe at the moment. He's on absolute fire. So I don't think this would be coming from Sporting. I don't necessarily think it would be an agent story neither, because, he's going to get a good deal. He's going to get a move potentially to a top club anyway if he does decide to leave Sporting. So it's interesting to see where to kind of figure out where the story's coming from. So whether it is, maybe creating a bit of a bidding war to get the price inflated, or whether it's true, who knows? But it's definitely a significant update, I would say, regarding Gyokeres, because it has come from a credible. I personally would like to see a bit more credibility, though, because as good as Pletty Gold can be, not always the best outside of Germany. If Victor Gyokeres was playing for, I don't know, Dortmund or somebody like that, then I would be more excited than what I am, because, like I said, he's generally not the best anyway. He's not an Ornstein or a Romano when it comes to stuff outside of Germany. So I'm still kind of holding on. And then the other question is, if we were in a bidding war with Man City, who's going to win that? I think we've got the money to compete with City for signings, because they've still got a significant budget that they didn't spend in the summer as well, haven't they? So, but interesting update. But and then on the flip side, we've got Amrim, so that might be our ace up the sleeve potentially for that. But interesting update. Let me know what you think in the comments. And obviously, it mentions on there, if we were to go for Gyokeres, we're going to need player sales first. And there was a story yesterday regarding Dalot potentially being a target for Real Madrid if they don't get Alexander-Arnold. And then Peter Hall for iPaper came out suggesting that Real Madrid will make a £50 million offer for Diogo Dalot in January. They are keen to move for Dalot now rather than wait for Trent Alexander-Arnold next summer. Now, I can't see that being true. Firstly, not the most credible source, so take it with a pinch of salt. But Peter Hall does work for like Sky Sports and places like that. But again, like why would Real Madrid want to spend £50 million in January when they could get Trent Alexander-Arnold for free in the summer? That makes no sense to me. The only way I think that would be true is if Arnold is going to sign a new contract and stay at Liverpool, and then potentially that would force Real Madrid to make a move early, which means they could potentially do that in January. But I've not heard any stories regarding that. To be fair, though, I don't really follow Liverpool news and transfer updates, so I'm not a good person to kind of, that's just my opinion. I'm not seeing anything online when I've been kind of searching, but I'm not searching for that news. But yeah, so I would say take that with a pinch of salt. That sounds like someone jumping on the bandwagon and putting a story out there to say, oh, they're going to buy him in January. But again, the question's there. If they gave £50 million for January, we're in a position where we need to sell to buy. We need to strengthen in other areas as well. Is Dalot going to be one of those players? I think going off of the comments from yesterday's video, I think a majority would potentially do that deal. So, one to keep an eye on. I'll bring you any further updates if they come out. But let me know what you think about those in the comments. Victor Gyokeres and Diogo Dalot. Let me know your thoughts down below. Enjoy reading them. Now let's move on to some other news. So Manchester United are in the market for a new third-choice goalkeeper, or potentially both a new number 2 and 3 if Bayindir leaves. So there's reports suggesting that maybe Bayindir might be wanting to leave because I think he's now lost his place in the national team. He is a good keeper. He was obviously number 1 at Fenerbahce, number 1 for Turkey when he signed for us, and now he's effectively played 2-3 games in the last 2 years since signing for us. Doesn't get rotated in the cups and stuff because Onana's pretty much playing every single game. So I can see a situation where maybe Bayindir wants to possibly leave for himself, and Tom Eaton's our third choice goalkeeper, and he's probably going to retire. So it does leave United in a potential position where we would need a backup goalkeeper and a third choice goalkeeper as well. I don't know what the youth's like, whether there's someone we can maybe promote from the youth team in regards to the goalkeeper situation. But, it's not the most exciting transfer news or transfer story, but the reason it's kind of key is because we're still going to need a decent backup goalkeeper, and that's money. And the third choice one as well, again, not necessarily, we won't need the most expensive one, but it is still funds that are going to go into an area that's, kind of locked down at the moment. I like the 3 goalkeepers, got an experienced homegrown player in Tom Heaton. That's good behind the scenes and around the dressing room by all accounts. Bayindir is a decent backup should Onana get injured. So it's a bit annoying because it might be funds that we have to spend in an unnecessary in an unnecessary position, but it is what it is. We can't really kind of control that. And then Plated Gold was also saying there's an expectation that Altay Bayindir could leave the club in one of the next 2 transfer windows, as he is simply too good to be a number 2 behind Andre Onana and currently has no prospects for regular playing time. And it's just one of those unfortunate positions, isn't it? I mean, when you've got a top goalkeeper who, by the way, Onana's been outstanding this season. I just mentioned before, would be one of my players of the year so far. And he's got I've got a few stats and stuff coming up in a second regarding Onana. And it just is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is. So not the most exciting transfer news, a backup goalkeeper, but it's annoying because it's funds that we're going to have to spend because you need a decent one who's going to cost a few quid rather than, and then third choice, if we've got someone in the youth team that we could potentially, promote, I wouldn't be against that. But again, it's the homegrown quota as well. So keep an eye on that. Let me know what you think in the comments. And obviously, one of the reasons for that is because Onana's been doing outstanding this season. Manchester United currently very pleased with the performances and development of Andre Onana. And this was a really interesting kind of report. So this season, Andre Onana leads the Premier League in clean sheets and goals prevented. That came from TNT Sport. So Onana having an absolutely outstanding season. The criticism I had, two criticisms of Onana. One, his ball playing, because he was just being told to constantly hoof the ball long. And I thought, well, why have we bought a ball-playing goalkeeper to just kick the ball long? We could. De Gea was good at doing that. So the reason we upgraded was apparently to play out from the back, and we weren't doing it under the previous coach. That's massively changed since Ruben Amorim came in. I think last game he had like 3 or 4 long balls, which is, you know, a stark contrast between like the 20 odd that he was having in Ten Hag's last few games. So massively impressed with that. But also his shot stopping's been elite this season. He's made some outstanding saves and match kind of, you know, like he's won us games, or he's kept us in the game, or he's, you know, like Southampton one, for example, when he saved that penalty, if we go 1-0 down at that stage, we weren't playing particularly well, that could have been a different result. So he has been kind of affecting results this season. So fair play to Onana for that. But let me know what you think about those in the comments. And let's move on to some other transfer news. So Manchester United are monitoring the situation of Frankfurt's midfielder Hugo Larsson. Now that's came from Sky Sports Germany reporter. Not the most credible, I would say. You know, he's a central defensive midfielder, or like an 8 or a 6. Swedish, 19 appearances, 4 goals, 1 assist. Ticks the usual boxes though, being young, up and coming, developmental. He's tall, he's 6'2". You know, so we do lack a little bit of height in the team, and especially in the middle of the park as well. Apart from that, not seeing too much of him apart from watching highlights and stuff. So it's not something I like to, you know, kind of mention, because anyone's highlight reels can look really good, but I just don't trust the credibility of the source. So I'm going to say take that story with a pinch of salt. That one sounds like agent talk to me, or like a club promoting a player to try and generate interest. Just to go back to what I was saying before about Gyokeres, that's what that feels like when I read that story. Is it's a name just being thrown out there to Man United because we've not had any previous links, and it's not from the most credible source. Whereas with Gyokeres, you're like, well, everybody knows who Victor Gyokeres is, surely, because he's been outstanding. So that's the kind of difference in the transfer stories and rumours that I was mentioning before. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then Kenan Yildiz is one of the top names on Manchester United's shortlist for the attacking midfield position. The club are impressed by his development and are monitoring him closely. However, Yildiz currently has no plans to leave Juventus next summer, from Florian Plettenberg. Now, Yildiz is a really interesting player. 19 appearances, 4 goals, 3 assists. Predominantly a left-footed right winger, as you can see from his kind of positions. He's played like once or twice as attacking midfielder, once as a second striker, and a couple of times like in a more deeper kind of role. 19, Turkish, again ticks all of the young, developmental, up-and-coming kind of boxes that we're looking for. 6'1", so again, similar to last in the story before, would add some height to the team. Does look a real good player. You know, again, though, is it a position that we need? A left-footed right winger? Could he potentially be brought in to be in one of the number 10 positions? But again, I think we're pretty stacked in that kind of attacking midfield role. The only reason I would is if you're going to start to get rid of players or start to sell players, and I'm talking, i.e. big name players that play in that position. You're talking, you know, I'm not saying I would do this, by the way, but you're talking Rashford, Bruno, Garnacho, like those sort of Xerxes, maybe. Do you know what I mean? Like that, playing in that kind of attacking midfield role, Mason Mount. Do you know what I mean? Like any of those, unless you're going to get rid of some of those players, do we really need that sort of position? Because I don't know if would be effective as like a left wing back position, you know, because that's the kind of key area. But a really interesting name, and according to Florian Plettenberg, you know, he was saying in the report, if I go back to it, the top names on Manchester United's shortlist for attacking midfield position. But again, it's outside of Germany, so I would say maybe I'd want to see a bit more credibility, even though Plettenberg's a credible source, like really credible. One of you know, he's up there with you know, some of the more credible journalists around. Not Ornstein or Romano, they're elite. They're like, you know, a totally different tier to everybody else. But he would be kind of one of my top picks behind those in terms of like if I was to rank them. So it is kind of you know, it's an interesting kind of name to throw into the mix. I don't think Juventus, by all accounts, so would want to sell him. In that case, he wouldn't be cheap neither as well. So keep an eye on it. Let me know what you think in the comments, though. Let me know if you've watched more Juventus, and let me know what you kind of think about him, because I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that one. And then I've just thrown his heat map on there so you can see that kind of position that he's playing, predominantly more as like a left winger that likes to cut inside and create. It does look creative. You know, it does look like a good player. But yeah, let me know what you think about that one, though, in the comments. And then the last story I've got for you is former Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag is on RB Leipzig's list if they sack Marco Rose. So Erik ten Hag could be back in work very shortly. I think that would be a good fit for him, actually. RB Leipzig, they're generally his ten Hag is a good coach. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got criticisms of him, but I don't think it was just him that was the problem at United. We had player issues. Do you know what I mean? He had everything going on, all the upheaval behind the scenes and stuff as well. New people coming in with new ideas. Do you know what I mean? So, and I don't necessarily think he was at fault. He had faults, obvious ones, and kind of, you know, ultimately he lost his job because of those faults. But I think it was a combination of things with Ten Hag. So hopefully, you know, we could see him back in work very shortly. Let me know what you think, though, about that in the comments. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.